I suppose the most inspiring story I do tell is of a chap who came to the track to try and set the fastest time in the reasonably priced car, but he was blind. I'll always remember that amongst many stories of people that I've met who were able to achieve something you thought was unbelievable. But Billy Baxter, who couldn't see, I think he takes the biscuit. Well, I think there's a lot of parallels between what I've done in motorsport and in the film industry, working in stunts, with mainstream business, and some of them are the most obvious and fundamental, which is working with the best people you can. And I suppose a lot of my experiences over the years showcase highly skilled people working together as a team. So they are a bit of a cliche, talking about teamwork and using the right people for the right job. But in my world, it's so fundamental and so core that you end up, with these great examples of people working in special effects that work on the cannons that help the cars flip over so that we land on the right mark. Pairing that with people who are, working against the flow of traffic on their bikes in cars, people like me, who are sliding and activating these quite complicated pieces of technology all at the same time. So it's such a collaboration. I think it really showcases that in a fun way for businesses that are bringing teams together from different, international groups of people working together from different experiences. So I think the stunt side really showcases that. With the racing, there's a unity of purpose. We're all there to win. That's obvious, in the same way that businesses are there to succeed. And I guess one of the things that I've learned over the years is that you gain performance everywhere, not in just one area. You might be looking for some very small piece of time on a lap time. Maybe it's half a second or something. The mistake is to try and find that half second in one corner. So it's usually small pieces everywhere, not just across the lap. So it's human performance, personal development, how I achieve those things using all sorts of wonderful mental skills, visualization, and the way we rehearse things and the way we plan ahead of time. It's weeks or months building up to the main event where you then deliver the maximum performance. So there's a lot of preparation that goes into that, and I think that also is a skill set that works with businesses. But it's also collaborating again across the board with all the technology side that feeds into it. So the engineering that we bring. A lot of the lap time is bought and paid for over the winter, before the season begins. So it's a continuous sort of evolution that gets the performance again working together. So I think it's those two things in unison. So it's a collaboration across different skill sets, and about how you search for it, in every area. So in the movie making process, my whole job is risk management. Actually, I would argue the same is true on the track. There's an adage that says to finish first, you first have to finish. I learned very much the hard way that not finishing was a problem. Going for a move that was too risky, having a collision, and I nearly made it, but nearly made it doesn't count. So you do have to learn to do what we call in the movie making world dynamic risk assessments. In the racing world, it's just you rely quite a lot on experience to sort of see what is high risk and whether it's worth it or not. And there are times when you do have to take the plunge and try and pull a move. So certainly motorsport, in the saddle, but with the movie making, the entire department of stunts, that's what we're there to do. One of the best ways to mitigate risk is again using the best people for the job, because they're going to have the experience, the ability, the innate instincts that you want to make the right decisions at the right time. And something that I talk about and showcase through the particularly in the Bond movies that I've worked on, but all of the films I've been involved with, is how we deliver that and how specific you are in the rehearsal times to pick out things. I think businesses are the same. You can basically make your mistakes behind closed doors more gently than when it really counts, and I think that's the way to do it. So usually a lot of it's down to forward planning, but having enough experience in the team to be able to react in the right way when you need to. So I mean, all businesses are different, but with race strategy, it is a fascinating business, and there's probably people out there that are playing on an Xbox or a PlayStation. You can do Formula One Manager now, who I'm sure know more than I do about running a Formula One race. and I still watch mystified through half of these races to try and work out how it works. Of course, what I do understand is how my series works. So every series has different regulations. So I'm well aware of my shortcomings because I understand the area that I know. So I think that's quite crucial. Knowing the regulations that you're working in. I'm racing in a series called the Praga Cup. So it's a one-make series of cars that are kind of like the Le Mans cars I used to race in the Le Mans series, with some very quirky rules that you need to understand. And the devil is in the detail, which I'm sure is something that's familiar for businesses. The rules change, so we have to update those all the time and work out what it is. And you know, in our situation, we strategize around the strengths of the drivers, how much time they should be in the car, when you're going to do the fuel, when you're going to do the tires. All those things sort of come together, but it does again come down to how to make the most of your equipment and the people through that period of time. So the strategy side, I think it is interesting, and how you exploit the opposition, the enemy, whatever you want to call them, respectfully, of course. But you're looking for the weaknesses in the people you're competing with, so that you can build your strategy in a way that exploits that, as well as to make the absolute best of your performance, as well as, you know, we'll look at different tracks, for instance, and pit lanes will be a different length. You know, so even though the rules haven't changed, the environment is different, and you realize that it takes longer to get down the pit lane in one track, say Donington, than another at Silverstone. And you allocate your resources around that and stay flexible. So it's an interesting one, you know, working with regulations and strategy. It's always changeable. So I mean, the takeaway from my talks, I hope people feel inspired. I've been inspired by everybody I've ever worked with. You know, every day at work is another school day. I'm always learning. I've had some fantastic experiences. I've met some amazing people. They're amazing because they are generally incredibly driven. So particularly the Top Gear life, teaching all the celebs from Tom Cruise to Cameron Diaz and everyone in between, Lionel Richie, Jimmy Carr, the lunatic. You know, they were all very different. You know, I've never met anyone like Tom Cruise before. So he, you know, this unbelievably driven man. The producers were terrified that he was going to, their insurance cover was going to be broken in half if anything happened. They actually weren't very keen for me to keep teaching him to go faster. They were sort of saying, you know, he's going fast enough. But we kept on because he absolutely was so determined. And I did teach him to sort of slice an apex, which he did, and the car nearly tipped over. They were absolutely bricking it, you know, behind me, all the people in sort of running the chute. And he was incredible. He was still teasing the throttle when the car was mid-air, crossed the line and took the fastest lap. So those sort of things, you know, they are quite specific, but they are inspiring. And you know, the one, I suppose, the most inspiring story I do tell is of a chap who came to the track to try and set the fastest time in the reasonably priced car, but he was blind. I'll always remember that amongst many stories of, you know, people that I've met who were able to achieve something you thought was unbelievable. But Billy Baxter, who couldn't see, I think he takes the biscuit. So that's one I definitely explore. And it's, you know, the power of the mind, willpower, and just finding extraordinary inner strength. So that's the story of Billy. So if I do meet you, I hope I'll tell you that story. That's a really interesting question because the way that content's been filmed has really changed. So even while I was at Top Gear, the camera tech was changing. So occasionally I would jump in the car and try and help the presenters by, you know, doing some good slides and make things look a bit tidier, to go into their bits to camera. But as the cameras improved, the quality, you could see through the windscreens a bit more. As a result, we had to start wearing wigs, and I looked ridiculous in a Clarkson wig. But there you go. That's such is life. It was worth taking a hit for the team. So I thought the way that Top Gear was shot, one of the reasons that it's so watchable and repeatable. You know, you watch these repeats on Dave, and it's amazing how Top Gear's it's been rebroadcast now. The original has now gone in America. It's back on BBC America. It's because it was shot beautifully by that camera team. That it was nearly always pretty much the same guys doing the, you know, every shoot we went on. They were the backbone of that, and many of them now are working on Clarkson's farm. God bless them. They all deserve knighthoods for patience and tolerance. So it was kind of timeless in a way, shot in a way that was beautiful. Your eyes, you could watch it again and again, and that's what I think is particularly true with movies like Bond. Everything's shot for real. There's no CGI, and it's the difference is we'll accept something for TV and move on. Because you don't have as much resources, there's not much money with which to shoot. You can't say, well, the sun's not popping out today, so we'll shoot it tomorrow. Whereas with movie making, they can be so precise because they absolutely want a timeless shot. They've got some of the best directors of photography in the world, and unless they are 100% happy that they're achieving the frame, the beauty that they want to see, Ridley Scott, people like that, Michael Mann, the guys that they've had on the Bond movies, Christopher Nolan, worked with him on Dark Knight Rises. They're acutely aware of what they want to see in the end. The output has to be a different level of quality, so it takes longer to shoot. Basically, is what I'm saying. My first Bond film taught me that. It took 3 months to shoot less than 2 minutes of footage, which is quite incredible. So you get your head around that, and you realise not only are you going to shoot top quality stuff, but they're going to cut out. So they're going to filter to only bring out their best and to put that on show. So I think that's the difference. It just takes a lot longer. The crews, there's way more people to manipulate all the equipment because there's different camera tech. We've got tracking cars, drones, again, lots more toys to film with. But it means that the moving circus is sort of 20 times bigger than television. And then you go to YouTube world, which has been a big adjustment for me. And I find myself sticking GoPro cameras in, which I wouldn't dream of touching anyone's equipment on a TV shoot, let alone a movie shoot. Forget about it. And on YouTube, you can stick a camera on something, catch something that's raw, and if it resonates with people, then it's worth running it. And that's what is amazing about YouTube. It's given people such an amazing ability to create. But they all have their place, don't they? And but yeah, and you mentioned streaming. That's just you just wonder how people have enough time to watch all this stuff. But I'm a huge fan of the stream content. Currently smashing my way through Yellowstone and loving that. Just wonderful series. So yeah, I guess it's been good, and for people like me who work in these places and spaces, it's been a lot of fun. So the next adventure for me is YouTube. So having worked in television and movies, I found the small screen now, the mobile app, and so I've got my own channel, Ben Collins Drives, which has been wonderful fun. Going out, basically shooting whatever I want to go after. So I've been teaching celebrities some driving skills. Had Dizzy Rascal on, who was amazing. And done a couple of exclusive launches. I've got another one coming up very soon for Praga, who've got something very special coming out. But I've been in America with Lucid, so yeah, I've been able to get my hands on really incredible pieces of automotive technology right at the pinnacle as they're being released, and that's been fun. So yeah, much more of that to do, and still back into the racing as well. So I'm racing again for Praga, and look forward to continuing it. So I suppose that in many ways, not much has changed, but it's a new avenue. So it's a new business and a new thing to go after.